when I was a kid, swimming off the Santa Maria, I once got a condom stuck to my face.
Carl Johnson is the protagonist of one of the most beloved entries in the Grand Theft Auto franchise. He came back home from Liberty City to find who murdered his mom, only to find his gang in disarray upon his arrival. Through his leadership, he pushes the Grove Street families into the dominant gang within the San Andreas region. Despite his seemingly calm nature, CJ can be brutally violent when he deems it necessary, but he's loyal to the people close to him and will go at lengths to protect them, which inevitably leads to a bunch of kills. I've covered Claude, Tommy, Nico, Johnny, Luis, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor already, so how does CJ stack up against his contemporaries?
Oh shit, here we go again.
Before the events of the game take place, we know that CJ grew up on Grove Street and was involved with a gang at a young age. There's no doubt he had to kill some people, but we don't have any confirmed deaths to count. 5 years before the game, CJ's younger brother Brian is killed. It's not specified exactly how, but it's implied a rival gang did it and that CJ was present. Shortly afterwards, he moved to Liberty City and spent 5 years there, where he probably killed even more, but no confirmed kills are seen there either. Just him busting this guy up while robbing him. His brother Sweet calls to inform him of their mother's death in a drive-by, and that leads into the game beginning with CJ flying back home to Los Santos. Within moments of getting into his taxi, he's pulled over by corrupt officers Tenpenny, Pulaski, and Hernandez. They happily take his cash and insinuate they'll frame him for another officer's very recent death if he doesn't comply when they come knocking. They toss his skinny ass out of the patrol vehicle right in the middle of Bala's territory, the rival gang of CJ's crew. He steals a bike in the alleyway and rides that back to his old stomping grounds. Memories come flooding back, but those are interrupted by Big Smoke flying around the corner ready to pound some ass.
What did he say?
He's psyched to see CJ, and they ride together to the cemetery where he finds his sister Kendall and his brother Sean, also known as Sweet. Kendall is happy to see him, but Sweet should actually be called Salty, because Kendall doesn't want to hear her brothers argue and bails to go see her boyfriend while Sweet brings CJ up to speed on all the people that have died or moved on in his absence. The Grove Street gang is at an all-time low, having split into different factions and the Ballas having free reign over the streets. They prove that immediately by chasing them down while they're on their bikes, but to me, their competence is questionable because none of them are harmed. CJ links up with Ryder and they take a drive around the neighborhood so CJ can magically grow some hair and get some food, but Ryder's dumbass attempts to rob the joint and they get chased out and head back home. CJ goes old school with his brother and they go around the hood covering up Bala's tags with their own. He even blinds a couple of them in an alleyway for shittles and giggles. The first kills of the game come in the next mission when CJ and Ryder attempt to recruit some of their old crew, only to find them all cracked out. They take revenge on some dealers, with the first dying in the streets and one dying in his own den. From there, the boys go and pick up some food.
2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soap.
But the Ballas are peeping in on them, so CJ ensures Ryder and Sweet can shoot them dead before they go back to the cul-de-sac. CJ needs some firepower if he's going to help, so Smoke accompanies him to their old firearms dealer Emmett so he can get strapped. He picks up a change of clothes to look the part, and then picks the gang up to participate in a bit of good old-fashioned violence. They seek out Ballas intending to shoot them, and while the boys do get some shooting done, CJ runs over 7 of them to claim the majority of the kills. He drops everyone off, and not too long after that, his brother calls asking for his help. The Seville Boulevard families are an offshoot of Grove Street and need to be dealt with for endangering Sweet, so CJ runs 4 over and peppers the final one with lead. When they get back home, they find Kendall going out to meet her boyfriend Caesar, and Sweet orders CJ to follow her and make sure she's being treated right. He picks up a lowrider so he can participate in their car meet and actually wins their hopping competition. Kendall is impressed and introduces CJ to Caesar, who informs Carl that he loves his sister and treats her nice. CJ goes back to Grove Street to find Ryder digging up his whole ass backyard, but more importantly, Ryder heard about an old army vet that is stashing a wealth of firepower in his apartment, so they drive over there, and CJ steals the goods without waking anyone up. He continues hanging with Ryder, who is cooking up a gallon of PCP that Tenpenny takes special interest in. The officers demand CJ and Ryder go obtain some cargo from a train, but when they show up, the Vagos and Ballas are there trying to claim it for themselves, so CJ eliminates 7 of them to clear the area. He hops aboard and tosses the cargo at Ryder's Eazy-E looking ass and drives back home where they concoct a plan to take more guns. This time, Ryder wants to steal them from the National Guard since he sees them as weekend soldiers and easy prey. CJ gets a 5-kill bump, but Ryder fights off more of them as CJ uses his forklifting skills to load the weapons into the truck. On their way out, some National Guardians pursue them, but like the morning after a Taco Bell binge, Ryder expels explosives out the back to ward them off. To get a break from the craziness, CJ rolls up to Big Smoke's, where Sweet is also hanging, and the trio of OGs set out to prison to pick up their boy Jeffrey, who goes by OG Loke now. While Sweet and Smoke had enough of him after just a couple minutes, CJ decides to keep him company as he goes to confront someone he met on the inside.
That was just a prison thing!
He runs and they give chase until Loke successfully blows the fool up. CJ drops him off at his state-ordered job, and goes back to Big Smoke as officers Tenpenny and Pulaski emerge from his home. Smoke claims they keep bugging him despite him never giving them shit, but he tells CJ he needs to pick up a cousin and asks if he wants to join him. His cousin is of the leafy variety that he wants to inhale, and he assaults some vagos after they disrespect him. The other one books it, but CJ knows how to keep up and guns him down in someone's backyard. The following mission is one that people have widely despised, but I always found it easy even back on the PS2. CJ and Smoke get down to the train station to interrupt a deal, but the vagos spot them and jump aboard a departing train. So CJ pilots the dirt bike while Smoke guns down the guys on top. They get back to Smoke's for a brief respite and head downtown where he's going to meet some Russians, but things go awry and CJ has to jump in and protect his boy. This more than doubles his kill count as he first removes 14 lives before they attempt an escape on a motorcycle, and 47 more of them are finished off during the chase. Looking for something a bit more chill, CJ meets Loke at his place of employment and is tasked with stealing a sound system so he can work on his new album. He dances hard to impress the DJ and steals her shit. Not content with that, Loke now needs prominent rapper Mad Dog's rhyme book because his lyrics are garbage.
I spit it harder than anybody in the world could do.
That
It's
shit
like
sucks! Damn!
CJ sneaks into his house and quietly offs all 10 of his guards while taking his book of rhymes. When he delivers that to Loke, he finds him in the back cleaning the fire. But while that may be shitty work, he's more livid about Mad Dog's manager supposedly blocking him from the music industry. So he asks CJ to kill the man. He jacks the car from one of his bodyguards after murdering him right there in the street, then joins the others in picking the manager up. As soon as he gets in the car with his date, CJ walks through those doors and informs him they're going swimming. He tells CJ not to be stupid because no one can swim in GTA, so CJ proves him wrong by staying inside the vehicle as it flies off the pier, and he leaves the two to their death. They all meet for a house party on Grove Street, but Loke's rhymes are jokes, so CJ joins Ryder and Sweet outside when they're informed the Ballas are incoming packing heat. They set up some defenses, and once they arrive, they're quickly thwarted by the Grove Street OGs, with CJ clocking 18 of the kills. Afterwards, he finds himself being forced into shit he doesn't want to do by Tenpenny, such as murdering 7 vagos and burning a house down that kills 3 more. CJ shows off that hero riz by saving a panicked woman from inside, then drives her home with plans to see each other again. But Tenpenny ain't satisfied. He now orders CJ to go off some arms dealer ASAP, so he sneaks into the compound and gets a hefty bump in kills with 27. CJ has blood on his mind now, and does his first turf war by forcing the Ballas out of this block with 28 deaths. Seeing a great opportunity to keep the pressure on, Sweet calls for CJ's help along with a couple nameless guns to go attack their leader Kane during a funeral. CJ downs 9 more Ballas, including Kane, to strike a heavy blow to their rivals. To take it a bit easy, he goes to meet Caesar and take him up on his offer to race. He puts his car up for grabs, knowing damn well he's going to win. When he rolls back home, Sweet tells the crew he wants to unite the family so they can bring the fight to the Ballas. Sweet goes inside while the others wait in the car, but police raid the place and both Ryder and Smoke bail. CJ ain't a busta and rushes in to help his bro, where he picks up 22 kills inside the motel and outside while downing a chopper. Smoke pulls the car around and picks the Johnsons up, but the police are on their ass, forcing CJ into pulling out the AK, which means in the words of Ice Cube, it was not a good day. They let things cool off a bit before they link up again, but Sweet has lofty intentions as he means to really take it to the Ballas. So while he leaves, CJ says he's right behind him and winds up getting a call from Caesar, who needs to see him urgently. He investigated a rumor that turned out to be true and found Ryder and Smoke working alongside the Ballas and Tenpenny. Worst of all, the green Saber that was spotted shooting up the Johnson home the night of his mom's death is at the location too. CJ is dumbstruck by these details and realizes Sweet is walking into a trap, so he rushes over there to find him injured. 13 Ballas meet their end while CJ defends his brother, but eventually the cops pull up to end the violence. CJ finds himself in the back of Tenpenny's squad car out in the boonies, where he learns Sweet is alive and being treated in a prison hospital. And if he wants it to remain that way, he needs to do what the corrupt cops tell him. There's a witness that is stressing them out, so CJ rides out to the woods to locate him and sneaks by the feds to kill the man and take a photo as proof. Caesar calls CJ and says he has family in the area and that his cousin can help him out, but I don't think Caesar knows just how fucking insane she is.
Eat my shit!
But CJ and us as the player are aware of it right away as soon as we find out it's Catalina who will go on to try and kill her mute boyfriend in 9 years' time. CJ does 4 missions with her and all 4 consist of the 2 robbing places. Catalina is perfectly happy killing on her own, so the first 2 don't add anything for CJ. But the last 2 missions do, as a couple rednecks are blown off their ATVs after robbing a liquor store mere moments before them. And the other robbery is a small town bank that winds up with 1 security guard and 14 cops being killed for their aggression. CJ gets a strange call that leads him to a motel where Tenpenny is doing the type of shit he arrests people for, but the hippie that emerges is the one that tasks him with stealing a harvester that he really needs. CJ rushes in no problem and takes the harvester from them just as easily, then mows down 11 people who have 0 survival instincts whatsoever. He delivers that to the Truth and greets both Caesar and Kendall in his humble ass abode. None of them are too happy about their situation, especially after Caesar informs CJ that Smoke is dealing drugs for Tenpenny. Caesar introduces CJ to Woozy, who operates out of San Fierro up north, but likes to do some racing in the country. CJ gets himself a first place finish and is given the opportunity to work with the man in San Fierro if he's ever there. He continues racing and happily says his goodbyes to Catalina after he beats her new creepy boyfriend in a race and wins a deed to his garage. He rides out to the Truth's farm, but the police soon follow as a chopper hovers over the area, so CJ regretfully burns his product. The Truth hands over an RPG and there only appears to be 1 pilot inside, so when he blows it up, he gets just 1 more kill. They drive to San Fierro to lay low, but CJ is pissed about the garage he got from Claude. Kendall keeps it positive by saying they'll make it work, and the Truth helps out by guiding CJ around town, recruiting a trio of dudes to help out. But even up north, CJ isn't safe from Tenpenny's grasp as he calls and demands he take care of a district attorney that's making his life difficult. He murders this poor random valet to steal his uniform, and leaves him in the parking garage where all his colleagues can see his little peepee. CJ stashes a large amount of drugs in the DA's car and brings it back to the parking garage and calls the cops. The following mission might just show CJ at his worst when some construction workers catcall his sister and he retaliates by running over 2 of them when they get in the way of his bulldozer and then buries the foreman alive in a porta potty. Thankfully after that he simmers down a little bit and meets Caesar so they can find out who Ryder and Smoke are working with. Caesar recognizes just 1 guy, but the other 2 are a mystery. However, Woozy knows some shit and says that they run a syndicate in the city that they tend to steer clear of. The older gentleman they don't know the name of, but T-Bone is their muscle, and the other one is unfortunately named Jizzy, who is the biggest pimp in the city. He also acts as a deal broker, so CJ targets him as his entry point. He makes a good first impression by talking him up and gets several tasks to prove himself. He takes out a low-level competitor before he can make a name for himself, then saves one of his girls from certain death under a bridge, and lastly adds 5 additional kills when he blows up a couple vehicles containing one of his girls who is trying to flee, her sugar daddy, their driver, and a couple of security guards. He goes back to the Jizz Man for more work and meets T-Bone Mendez face to face. T-Bone gets a call that a van carrying their cash has been ambushed, so CJ rushes out to try and prevent that. He gets 1 kill as 4 different guys split up with the cash, but he's able to snatch the package off their bikes without any further death. He delivers the goods back to Jizzy and Mendez, but their colleague Mike Torino is in trouble now. So using clues given by Mike over the phone, they track him to the airport, and CJ murders 5 of the thugs to help save him. A little bit later, CJ receives a call from Jizzy asking him to go meet T-Bone at a gas station. Here, CJ proves he's blind as shit and somehow didn't see T-Bone lying down in the back seat. He chokes CJ and tries to intimidate him for funsies, until Mike approaches the car. He informs CJ they have a shipment that is in danger of being stolen, so he needs to escort it to its destination, and winds up 31 kills richer while blowing up their blockades. When he gets back to the garage, he's told some officers are hanging in his office, and naturally Tenpenny and his little sidekick are there waiting for him. There's a reporter that is threatening to oust Pulaski in his less than professional behavior, but they don't know who is feeding him information. They task Carl with following the reporter from San Fierro to Los Santos, and from there following his taxi until he meets the informant. He tracks him to the pier and snipes the 2 in broad daylight. On his way back to San Fierro, CJ is tipped off by Woozy that the Syndicate and the Ballas will be meeting soon. But in order to find out where exactly, CJ needs to end Jizzy. His club is closed for a private event, so Carl finds his way to the rooftop and enters in from there to confront the pimp. The coward runs, and CJ is forced into blasting 6 people inside the club that try to stop him. He runs outside and chases Jizzy, and luckily for his bodyguard, he saw the writing on the wall and bailed, while Jizzy himself is finished off. And he takes the dead pimp's phone and confirms the meeting will take place on Pier 69, where he meets up with Caesar on the roof across the street. Woozy sent some of his triads to help, but they're not aware of T-Bone's men on the roof, so CJ has to help them out by sniping 6 of them on the rooftops. The rest start showing up, with T-Bone and Ryder arriving first, but Mike Torino decides he wants to arrive in style via helichopper, and spots the bodies on the roof. He does the smart thing by never landing, and the rest are not so fortunate and come under fire. After getting 12 kills, CJ decides to share the wealth with Caesar as they gun down T-Bone Mendez together, but Ryder is all his. I could have sniped him from the pier, but I wanted to make it more personal by chasing him on boat and blowing that sumbitch up. CJ elects to help out Zero at his RC shop, and while these missions can be avoided, he mentions the events later on, so I figured we gotta do them. His rival Berkeley is making his life difficult, so CJ helps chase him out of San Fierro. Only one mission has any kills though, and it provides an increase of 7. Woozy calls to inform CJ that Mike Torino is preparing a shipment and will be leaving via helicopter soon, so CJ races down to his location and murders the 5 armed thugs that give him grief while Mike takes off. He speeds it down the highway in pursuit of the chopper and jumps out to hit it with a rocket launcher, killing the 3 guys inside. Woozy recognizes how adept CJ is at committing crime, and requests his presence as he goes to a triad meeting. CJ got news that Woozy is blind though, which blows his motherfucking mind considering the man was participating in illegal street races just last week. A new gang is in town and sets up an ambush, pushing Carl closer to the 400 kill mark as he downs 18 of them. He drives Woozy back to the apartment where he's introduced to their leader Ron Fali. A Vietnamese gang known as the Da Nang Boys are moving into the city and trying to push the triad out. A package the triad needs is at the airport, and CJ volunteers to go grab the damn thing. The Da Nang attempt to block him off, but find CJ difficult to deal with when he finishes 5 of them off. He brings the package back and learns that Ron Fali can't leave the apartment, otherwise he risks assassination. So CJ, being so helpful, decides he'll act as a decoy and lure their assailants away to the countryside. There's no kills here, but the next mission has some. Woozy finally admits that he is blind and tells CJ he can't help with the next job because it requires swimming. They need to get a bug planted on a Da Nang ship, but it's surrounded by patrols. CJ is able to avoid them and climb aboard where 7 more deaths are tallied up. After planting the bug, he meets Woozy, who is on his way out, but he informs CJ that another triad will be doing some reconnaissance. CJ jumps in a chopper with him and they fly out to the Da Nang ship where he uses the minigun to eviscerate 9 men. Even though I shot him to shit, the game wants to force us down into the water, where CJ swims to the ship and begins his assault on foot for another 21 kills. He releases a few prisoners locked in a shipping container and then climbs up to face the Da Nang leader Snakehead. He shoots just 1 guy and then something hilarious happens. A random plane crashes into the bridge and kills off the boss for me, saving CJ some time. He escapes with the refugees on a dinghy and makes his way back to his garage where Caesar tries to cheer the dude up. He's one morose motherfucker though, and is torn up about Ryder, but Caesar tells him something.
Deserved it, eh? Little asshole tried to bang your sister, you know that?
No. For real? Shit. Maybe you right then, man.
Woozy pops in unannounced to tell CJ there's an opportunity to put the Loco Syndicate out of business for good by destroying their crack factory. He gets a car rigged to go boom boom and drives to the factory to find the gates locked, but that ain't a problem because he gets those gates open by running down the 2 guards and continues the mini rampage inside to bring the kill count up by 5. He parks the car in the building near all the chemicals and rigs it to blow. I counted 5 people inside, but 4 of them apparate out of there, with only 1 guy by the front desk remaining. 4 armed locos rush in to replace the missing people, so when the car explodes, it takes 5 lives with it. Backup was called in while CJ planted the vehicle, so 11 more people are killed on his way out. Soon after that's finished, he gets a strange call demanding he come out to the desert if he wants to ensure his brother's safety. But when he gets there, he's tasked with racing a monster truck around the area as some sort of test. Mike Torino reveals himself and that he didn't actually die in that chopper, but I was purposefully vague on the deaths there, so I don't need to retract anything. He's a government agent that sometimes works undercover like he did with the Loco Syndicate. He needs CJ to steal a tanker and suggests he utilize Caesar to help, who does some fast and furious shit on the highway to jack the truck. They stash it at the garage and CJ goes back to the desert to talk to Mike, who demands he protect a helicopter carrying some cargo. He lights a flare to signal its arrival, but that also brings a good amount of enemies for CJ to blow up with a rocket launcher. At Mike's request, he purchases the abandoned airstrip to the north and has to go through pilot school before he can get any more work. It's pretty straightforward. However, one class requires he blows up 2 moving vehicles near the airstrip containing 1 person each. As soon as he gets educated on the ways of the pilot, he's tasked with flying under the radar to poop a package out the plane, which he does non-violently. He lands the plane at the airstrip only for some feds to follow suit, so as he hides and observes, Mike Torino sneaks up and asks what's going on. CJ thought it was some shit related to the only fed he knows, but Mike says it's a rival department trying to ship some explosives to the Middle East.
Carl, do you like maiming people? Curious.
Maiming? Some people, shit.
Knowing that, Mike requests CJ rush under the plane before it takes off and take it out of the sky. He does some maiming aboard the plane, then tosses an explosive and jumps out of it to finish the job and the pilot left behind. He parachutes back to the airstrip, but instead of Mike, he finds the truth there. He heard about a top secret project being researched within Area 69. Nice. And it has the hippie mad interested. So of course Carl has to bust into the compound and retrieve it. There's a stealthy way to do this, but CJ ain't no Sam Fisher, so he puts down 19 soldiers above ground and 26 more inside the facility itself. He finds the project is a super expensive jetpack that he pilots out of there without further death, and drops it off at the airstrip so the truth can try it out. He's a bit shit at it though, so instead he wants CJ to use it to rob a train carrying something, but he doesn't know what yet.
What you mean you don't know yet?
CJ shoots at and kills 9 soldiers on the train before finding some mysterious goo he offloads onto the hippie. Woozy calls CJ and tells him his new base of operations is set up in Las Venturas and urges him to stop by. He's finding it difficult for the Triad to open their own casino in a mafia-led town. So to help establish a foothold, he offers partial ownership in the casino in exchange for CJ's help. They captured a mafioso, and CJ intends to intimidate him into giving some intel by strapping him to the front of a car and driving like a madman around town. Eventually, the scared fool provides a name, the Sindaco family, and CJ takes them back to the casino unharmed but intensely traumatized. He tells Woozy they need to hit the mafia-run casino hard and will need explosives to do so.
Always gotta blow up shit to pull a heist.
CJ drives to the quarry outside of town to steal dynamite and winds up running over 2 construction workers in the process. He takes 4 different stashes, which prompts security to arrive, and on his way out, CJ murders 4 of them and takes the dynamite back to Woozy's men, then drops by the casino to find out the mafia are distributing counterfeit chips in an attempt to fuck with them. Woozy knows damn well they own a plastics factory in town, and CJ is sick of their meddling, so he drives over there and adds 17 more kills to his ever-growing count. He destroys all of their counterfeit machines and drives back to the casino. Shortly after arriving, the Truth gives him a call on his cell phone asking CJ to go find some friends he left somewhere in the desert while tripping ass. He locates a couple wankers and gets them in his car, but the rest of the band is still missing, so they stop by the snake farm down the road a ways. The owners there recognize them immediately and pull a Frank Reynolds, which prompts CJ to respond in kind. With those 4 dead, he takes the guys to Las Venturas and drops them off with Ken Rosenberg. As soon as he leaves the casino, CJ calls Woozy to inform him he has an idea on how they can rob the Caligula's casino. When he meets the Triad in person, he suggests he start with finding blueprints to the casino first. These next few missions are entirely optional, but CJ has been all about helping Woozy against the Mafia since the start. So much like Zero's missions, I elected to include these as well. He rushes over to the planning department and talks to the receptionist, who tells him the blueprints are upstairs and reminds him no copying or photos allowed. He needs to photograph that shit though, and busts up their air conditioning to start a fire and force everyone off that floor so he can snap one. They find it a little sus Carl went running up the stairs during a fire, so 12 armed guards stand between him and the exit. Now that they have the blueprints to Caligula's, he discusses the layout and security details with Woozy. They'll need a key card to get their way inside. So CJ follows an employee named Millie after her shift to find she's a bit of a freak, and CJ has to match that energy. He follows her home and ambushes the old gimp, slowly making his way down the sidewalk. After a bit of the old in and out, he can either date her more or simply kill her and take the key card. And y'all know damn well what I did here, especially after she insults our boy CJ.
You look like a fat ass.
He takes her to a back alley in town and kills her quietly, then gets back to the casino to go over the next stage of the plan. They'll need to knock the power out during their heist, so he parachutes down to the dam in order to plant some explosives on the turbines for later use. There's a couple of security guards outside, and a few more inside that get put down so CJ can plant those bombs. The cops arrive though, so CJ climbs atop the dam where he gets stuck and does this 10 out of 10 dive into the water below. Next step is getting a convoy set up that will blend in with the usual detail. They'll need cop motorcycles and an armored truck to transport the money, so CJ starts by killing 3 cops to take their rides, then sneaks into a military compound to hijack a Skycrane helicopter that adds another 11 kills. He uses the magnet on the chopper to yoink an armored truck and takes it back to his airstrip. CJ drops by Caligula's and talks to Ken Rosenberg, who believes he's as good as dead, because now that Johnny Sindacco is in poor health due to some whack job, the Forelli family sees a prime opportunity to finish him off. CJ volunteers to move the man he's scared so bad he wound up in the hospital, but when he gets there, he's told an ambulance has already picked him up. After scouring the streets of Las Venturas, he eventually finds the fake ambulance and crushes one of the Forellis between their 2 vehicles. He takes the ambulance and drops it off at the mafia-run meat factory to keep him safe. But his safety won't last long because he drops by there with Rosenberg soon after, and Johnny's heart goes kaput when he sees CJ. The family immediately attacks, forcing CJ into a battle that kills 28 Sindaccos in about 3.5 minutes time. Afterwards, CJ takes a stroll down the strip to find a small crowd forming and notices Mad Dog standing atop the roof of a hotel. His addiction issues and the failures brought onto him by CJ have pushed him to the brink. Carl sees an opportunity here and tries to convince him to come down, but he takes the quick route and CJ is there to break the fall. He gets severely injured after smashing into the truck, so CJ drops him at the hospital, and Mad Dog says he'll need a new manager when he's feeling better. CJ drops by the Four Dragons casino and makes his partnership official, but the happiness doesn't last long, because Tenpenny Pulaski requests his presence out in the burbs and demand he go kill some federal agents carrying a dossier on their misbehavior. CJ finds the feds out in the desert and eliminates 6 of them to retrieve the dossier, then meets the officers in an abandoned town nearby to hand it over. Tenpenny pulls a shovel out of the trunk and smashes Hernandez with it, claiming he's been a rat this whole time, and forces CJ into digging a hole. Tenpenny forces Pulaski with overseeing the dig, and once the hole's big enough, Hernandez wakes up and promptly dies, but the distraction is just enough for CJ to get in close and force Pulaski into fleeing instead of fighting. After a brief chase, CJ takes down the corrupt cop and shows everyone nearby what happens when you fuck with him.
I try to be a good person.
CJ gets back to the city and enters Caligula's to find its owner Salvatore Leone there. CJ is meeting him for the first time, but did work with his son Joey back in Liberty City. This grants Carl an opportunity to do work for Sal, which winds up with CJ doing some Mission Impossible shit as he jumps from one plane to another to assassinate the 5 Forellis flying in. When he reports back, Sal is so gosh darn impressed, he sends CJ out to Liberty City to assault the Forellis at their bistro, which is a cursed place for these fools since another one of them is assassinated 9 years later right outside by the GTA demon. CJ pulls up in a taxi and wastes no time in wasting the family in their own base of operations, adding 19 bodies to the count. Now that CJ has earned Sal's trust, he sees the perfect opportunity to rob his casino. His plan works remarkably well, with everything that he's gathered playing a pivotal role. However, it doesn't take long for the casino to catch on and send guys down to the vault to check everything out. And that's when CJ pushes his kill total over the 700 mark when 40 men meet their maker. Just as CJ is inching closer to Nico's kill total, this is where his kill count starts to ramp up exponentially, because now that business has concluded in Las Venturas, he's ready to make his return to Los Santos by getting Mad Dog his house back. The problem is, the Vagos have taken the mansion over, so CJ brings some Triad backup to forcefully remove them from the premises and gains 45 kills to nearly tie it up with Nico's kill count. But Mike Torino sees hella potential in CJ, and thinks he can bump those numbers up a bit by infiltrating an aircraft carrier and stealing a fucking jet. This brings in 13 more kills with the guys on the ship, and the poor saps getting blown up by it. CJ is pissed about that shit too, and Mike Torino has some massive balls showing his face again after that. But he delivers good news, and pulled some strings to release Sweet from prison. Carl wants to bring him to Mad Dog's mansion, however Sweet is a stubborn ass fool, and demands CJ take him to Grove Street. He chastises CJ for leaving the hood in the first place, especially after seeing it overrun by ballas and crackheads that meet their end courtesy of the Johnson brothers. Despite all that, CJ finds Sweet about ready to hit that rock, so he forces his big brother to accompany him on a quest to find a major dealer who recently moved to ballas-controlled Glen Park. So the two bros work together to kill any purple-clad ballas and reclaim the territory. They locate B-Dub, who confesses that Big Smoke is in a deep state of paranoia and is holed up somewhere in the city, but he doesn't know where, and only a select few do. In the meantime, he goes to check in on Mad Dog, who notices OG Loc on TV spouting off rhymes he knows for certain he put down in his rhyme book. CJ's over here looking mad suspicious, but tells the rapper they can go make an appearance and chase Loc down and take the book back. Now that Mad Dog can work on spitting fire, CJ links up with Sweet to start taking turf back from the ballas. This results in a large uptick in kills, with 72 ballas being slain between the two territories. CJ and his homies all sit down in front of the TV sometime after that to watch Officer Tenpenny's trial, but the justice system fails and he's acquitted of all charges. The city erupts in riots, and Los Santos is turned into a battleground. Caesar needs CJ's help in taking back his home, so they gather some guys up and take it to the Vagos, with CJ putting 51 of them in the ground personally. With the city in absolute chaos, the Grove Street families see an opportunity to claim turf while the police are occupied. They need to take a minimum of 35% of the territory in order for the final mission to become available. So CJ roams the streets of his city and kills off numerous ballas and Vagos to get a ridiculous increase in kills. That's more than everyone else's total count outside of Nico and Luis's, with 438 opposing gangsters being put down. Once that's done, he gathers Sweet and aims to end things with Smoke, but then he tells him to stay in the fucking car anyway. Smoke's drug factory is heavily guarded and fortified, so CJ borrows a SWAT tank and rams that through the front entrance to begin things. Between that and while on foot, CJ fights off 82 more guys Smoke has employed inside his little hideout. He confronts Smoke and they go toe to toe, with Big Smoke getting fucking owned by CJ. His heart is barely stopped before Tenpenny pops up and demands CJ load a briefcase full of cash. And once he fills it, he's mere moments away from being shot, but then makes Tenpenny fall for the oldest trick in the book.
Sweet! What?
He runs instead of fighting, which is smart on his part, because CJ ain't done killing, and has to fight his way out of the fortress and chase the man down. Between the guys in the warehouse and the ridiculous amount of Vagos and cops that chase after them as they pursue Tenpenny, CJ tacks on another 56 kills. Eventually, Tenpenny loses control of the fire truck he's driving and flies off the bridge, smashing into the ground below and climbing out with a few defiant final words.
I took the trash out. I did.
Garbage day!
He succumbs to his injuries, meaning no one is truly responsible for his death other than Tenpenny himself, and Sweet advises CJ to leave the body alone so no one can be blamed for it. They leave the scene of the crime, remembering they forgot to like this video and subscribe to the channel.
See you around, officer.
And that's where CJ's story ends. Not much is known about his life after that, but he's young, owns several businesses and properties across 3 different cities, and has a lot of friends in various places. It's suggested in GTA 4 that the 3D era protagonists are all dead, but since they take place in different universes, it's not considered canon. Regardless, CJ smashed that kill total amongst GTA protagonists by doubling what Niko Bellic was able to accomplish. The only other character that can possibly beat CJ is maybe Tony Cipriani, so if you want to see me cover the rest of the GTA games, just let me know. But for now, I'm taking a break from the series as I move on to the highly requested Nathan Drake kill count. Thanks as always for watching. I'm King Deschain, signing off for now.